in public policy that I feel more strongly about than this one. I was in your position, Minister, not that long ago, and it's very rare sometimes in public life to come to the conclusion that everything we're doing is wrong. We have come to the conclusion that the issue with drugs is with the substances, and that if we just control the substances, then everything will be fine. But addiction is not just about the substance. Addiction is about circumstance, it's about disconnection, it's about marginalisation. And I can't for the life of me understand why we still think it's a good idea to effectively criminalise marginalisation and to criminalise addiction. What my amendment is trying to achieve, and it's very similar to Senator Aodhan's amendment, is to stand by what was said in the programme for government, Minister, that in terms of drug policy we will take a health-centred approach and not a criminal justice approach. And it makes absolutely no sense to me to try and dissuade somebody from a life of addiction by criminalising them for their drug use. So my amendment clearly says that it should be a defence for anybody caught in possession of an illegal substance, that they can argue that it was for their own personal use. And as Senator Aodhan has quite rightly said, we could follow the example of Portugal, that we say to that individual, we understand you are addicted. We understand you have a medical need. We understand that you need help and compassion. We're not going to victim blame. Because what happens in this republic is that we blame the victim. And all the resources that could be spent on the pushers and the trade are being spent on the victims of the trade. There are silent victims of this industry that nobody ever hears about. And I mentioned it in the House a couple of weeks ago, that there was 2 people found dead on the streets of this city, this capital city, from heroin overdoses that never made the newspapers. Happened in March of this year. 1 gentleman was found dead in the public toilet at Connolly Station. 1 gentleman was found dead after 2 nights in the open air in Foley Street. Made no newspaper. There was no protest. There was no political comment about it. Because on some level, in this society, we have decided that they are to blame for their own addiction. So we're blaming the victim. We're criminalising the victim. And if you talk to any group from the equality sector, be they the LGBT community, be they the travelling community, be they people with disabilities, migrants, they will all say that there's a disproportionate drug usage issue in these communities because of disconnection, because of marginalisation. So when you fall into addiction, surely our response should be not a criminal justice one, but a health one. You go down to the drugs court, Minister, I'm not sure if you've been down there yet. It's an initiative to try and keep people away from the criminal justice system. All you see are a bunch of sick people sitting in a courtroom. It makes no sense whatsoever. So fundamentally what we're trying to achieve here today is to say that the victim of this trade, the addict, the drug user, is not a criminal because of their drug use. The people who sell it, who trade in it, who profit from it, yes, criminalise them. Take them out of circulation. Use the criminal justice system to do it. But the victim of it, the addict, the user, that person should not be criminalised because of their medical need, their medical condition. I think what we're proposing here today is common sense. I think it would shift the whole drug issue in this country away from a moralising, pathetic attempt to say that Ireland is black and white, and to actually humanise the individual who is affected by this. And I would say to our friends in the media as my final point, because what we constantly do in Ireland, and the media are culpable of this as well, is to use terminology that dehumanises people who need services and resources. We call them names. We call them junk. And when you do that, you inevitably result in the public consciousness believing that in some way they are less worthy of resources. So let's actually take a course of action that might actually work, because what we're doing at the moment isn't working. and look at what they're doing in Portugal and say to our common citizens, you have an addiction, you are not a criminal, you are a patient with a medical need, and we will treat you as such.
Thanks, Senator O'Riordan.